What's up, everyone? This is Spencer with the Environmental Politics YouTube channel, coming to you live from my basement. This week's episode I recorded about 3 months ago in July in New York City with Kaia Rose. Kaia and I got to know each other at the 2015 Citizens Climate Lobby Conference here in Washington, D.C., and she was explaining to me her project called the Climate Countdown. You guys should go check that out. And that was exactly what I thought needed to be done. What she's doing is she's telling the story of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in a video blog format. Doing really cool work with that. I was very lucky enough to go up there and sit down and chat with her. This was after we recorded the initial intended nationally determined commitments episode, which you could go check out from the Climate Countdown. And we were talking about how in Bonn, Germany in June, the draft text was given to the co-chairs to start paring down. We were talking about the role of youth in these negotiations and how the youth are actually thinking about this in a different way than the people in control, and how if the youth were actually at the steering wheel, maybe these negotiations wouldn't look the same way. We were also talking about how eventually, whatever happens in Paris in December, the environmental activist community needs to own that. We need to accept that this is where we are and that we're going to be moving forward from here. So I really hope you enjoy this episode. It was a delight to talk with Kaia. I want you to go check out the Climate Countdown. She's doing some amazing, amazing work with that. And so I leave you with that.
Can you tell us a little bit about your project, what you're doing?
Sure, yeah, so we've just launched it. It's a web series, and it's following the people making pathways towards COP21. So there's this big conference at the end of this year in Paris, which is bringing together all the global leaders, and they're going to try to come up with an agreement about how we're going to tackle climate change. So it's looking at not only the people directly engaged with the negotiation process, but also the kind of the periphery and the momentum that COP21 is creating this year. And so it's me mapping out how do I think about this whole problems and what are the solutions and how do I figure out how to navigate my way through it.
Okay.
Basically.
And have you had a following as you've generated content?
So we have first 2 episodes up now.
Mm-hmm.
Second episode went up last night, and we've had really good response so far. It's literally been about 2 days.
Really?
So
Great.
It's exciting.
How can we find you on YouTube or your website?
So it's called Climate Countdown.
Climate Countdown.
And there's a website, climatecountdown.org. And then, of course, we're also on the YouTube, and we're on the Facebook, all the things. On the Instagram.
All right, great.
We've got little trailers. So I'm trying to do each episode right now. The first episode's about 10 minutes. No, first episode's 15 minutes. Second episode's 10 minutes. And then we're also doing accompanying little 1-minute post-it size version.
Great.
Which actually came from you.
Oh,
That's
cool.
Yeah. So just trying to keep it a little bit, so if people don't have time to sit down for 10 minutes, they can just watch a 1-minute kind of quick, give them an overview of one subject. The Cliff Notes. Yeah, we're using Post-it, so same Post-it size.
Yeah, I like it, yeah, okay. How can you summarize this issue on a Post-it?
Yeah, exactly. It makes people think tangibly, okay.
And what sort of topics are you exploring?
So the first episode is looking at kind of the context of where we are in this COP process, in this UN negotiation process, and what the basic scientific principles are that are guiding policy.
Okay.
Things like 2 degrees and parts per million, kind of what those are.
Really?
The second episode goes into a little more depth into COP21 and why 2015 is an important year. And then the third episode is I went to Bonn, Germany, where they were negotiating.
Oh, just like
text.
a few weeks ago?
Yeah, a few weeks ago.
Pretty
I was
cool.
in Bonn, see how that was, and so probably the next 2 or 3 episodes will be about Bonn.
Yeah.
And about how the agreement is.
Can you speak a little bit about Bonn and like what it is and what got done there?
So Bonn, there's 3 sessions they're having in Bonn. They're called intersessionals in the negotiation process. So they're having 3 before they get to Paris. They started out, this Bonn session was 9 days long, and they started out with a 90-page draft agreement. And the idea was that they need to get it down to 20 or 12 pages. They need to get it a lot smaller before Paris. the reason it's 90 pages long is because they have all of the options in there. So any option that any country wanted is in there. Now the problem with cutting it down is that if they start cutting options, they have to start negotiating because the options are in there because someone wants it in there.
Right.
And they don't want to start negotiating yet. So they're trying to cut it down without cutting. So what they're doing, or what they did in Bonn, was they worked on unpacking. So they would take an option and kind of figure out like what are the concepts behind this, like what are the concepts in this.
Such as, which is what?
Such as like concepts of transparency or concepts of
Common but different responsibilities.
Yes,
that sort of
yeah,
stuff.
exactly. So like there might be an option in this paragraph, like option 1 and option 3 might have very similar concepts, but option 2 might be very different.
Mm-hmm.
And then there also might be a paragraph in like this other part of the text that has an option that's very similar concepts.
Yeah.
So they would unpack all of that.
So eliminating redundancy, kind of
Exactly.
streamlining the text.
And then they would streamline. That's the whole
Oh,
idea. That was the other
buzzwords.
buzzword.
Mhm.
Unpack and streamline the
Okay.
text. So they managed to, I think by the end they cut about 3 pages.
Mhm.
But what was interesting is that by the end of it, it was going very slowly.
Yeah.
And all of the parties, all the governments, were saying this is going too slowly. And so by the end, they gave the co-chairs of the negotiations a mandate to streamline the document for them.
Really?
Yes.
So is this the first time in the UNFCCC process that was allowed?
I don't know, actually. It was unusual, but I mean, this is my personal feeling, is that the co-chairs may have I'm not sure if they felt like they were going to streamline the whole document with everyone anyway, so it might have been that but if they had showed up on the first day saying, hey, we streamlined it for you, the countries would have been like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't decide for us. We have to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And it would have gone terribly.
Okay.
But so they kind of let them do it and then realize that they weren't doing it very well, and now they have the mandate to do it for them.
Okay.
So, but it's interesting. I mean, the whole thing is like you're in this room and there's like 197 diplomats, and each representing a whole country, and it's a very slow, tedious process, but kind of weirdly fascinating at the same time, because no one says anything that, like, nothing's been taken at face value. Everything that's said is like, you're like, what does that actually mean? Like
political chess.
Yes, it is. It's all political chess, and you see all these kind of different ploys being. It's from my perspective as an outsider. I was like, I'm kind of reading this one way. I have no idea if it's the right way
Interesting.
to read it. But I was going somewhere with that, and I've lost it.
Well, I went to Warsaw, so that was
Okay.
COP19,
Okay.
right? And I was there and I saw similar proceedings. Warsaw's when they came with the loss and damage clause.
Yeah, so we're talking about that with someone.
Yeah, and what was interesting for me going there and these people having these conversations about climate change and these benchmarks of 2 degrees, parts per million, that sort of stuff, was we're really talking about just the fate of the world. We're talking about a potential apocalypse, and it's also nonchalant, and everyone's like, dressed up, very business formal, having these
Very polite.
yeah, very formal conversations, just wrote like, well, we need to make sure we incorporate these concepts, and and each country had their own values and kind of priorities, but really take a step back. It's like these people are like they have the fate of the world in their hands.
I know. It's so it is crazy when you think of it like
Yeah.
that, because it seems so. Well, they literally just had they were projecting a Word document up on the group editing, which seems so like just go down and kind of like and they're like little arguments about tiny, like there was an argument that lasted for hours about like semicolon and comma. It gets down to such kind of small things, but then you pull back and you're like, this is what we're talking about, like. But then it is important. Like it's these kind of different levels. Like the words are super important. But at the same time, you're like, just gotta get this done. And I always wonder, like, they're so polite in the room. You know, they say, like, thank you very much for our esteemed colleagues from the blah, 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 and we appreciate the time they spent doing that, and this is why we completely disagree with them. But, you know, like, it's so polite and so nice, which is nice, but then I also wonder, like, God, what are they like behind closed doors? Like, surely they must have, like, some kind of...
Those damn Americans!
Yeah.
I'm sure they said that a lot.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But I'm interested. So this is an idea that I've had personally about this process, is that this UN process and these kind of international institutions, might they be outdated for a 21st century reality, and specifically for this kind of qualitatively unique problem of climate change, that it's persistent, it's long-lasting, it's irreversible, it's not equitable, it's intangible in many ways.
Yeah.
Until it gets...
Until it's something very tangible.
Exactly.
But it's one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing I kept thinking about, there were a lot of young people there representing the young NGOs, Youngo, and they were doing kind of different... Youngo. Yeah.
Okay.
Young
Continue.
NGOs. There's so much jargon. Much jargon over there. And I found them to be the most interesting people to talk to, because I felt like, which probably is true of any generation, like any time period you're in, the young generation is the most like energetic and interesting. But I can't really imagine them growing up and doing what the UN is doing. Like, somehow it does seem I haven't thought of it as outdated, but I have thought of it as the younger generations would be doing this in a very different way.
Okay. In a better way?
Possibly.
All right.
I don't know. I was left with two things at the end of Bonn. I feel like, in one way, I feel like this is a very slow process and outdated, and that surely there's a better way to be talking about these things together. But then at the same time, I feel like it's kind of unfair to put it on the UN and be like, the UN has to solve the problem, and the UN has to create this ambitious agreement, because I just doesn't feel like a place that creates ambition. Like, it's the process, I mean, it's a very inclusive process, which is good, but when you're trying to reach a consensus between 197 countries, you end up with the lowest common denominator. That is what it is, you know, and you can't really ask them to do something that the whole structure is not really created to do. And I think there's some value in getting everyone to sit at the table together and talk about these things and decide they're important and decide we're going to do something about them and be really nice to each other. And like, I think there's value in that. So I think, I don't feel like it's just should be scrapped, but I feel like it's only part of what's going to make the change. Like, there needs to be all of this. It's up to citizens to raise the ambition, and civil society and industry and private sector. Yeah. And
the all hands on deck.
Yeah.
As has been said.
Exactly. And I think the people who are organizing COP21 have that. That Paris needs to send a signal to the rest of the world that everyone's moving in this direction. Yeah. I don't think they expect it to be hugely ambitious. But they're trying. I think they really are trying to get it as ambitious as they possibly can. Yeah. But we'll see.
And there's the broader idea that, actually Todd Stern said this in a speech he made in 2013. He said, the UN isn't going to solve this problem. He didn't say the UN isn't going to solve this problem, but basically what he was saying is, the UN isn't going to solve this problem. It's going to set the rules of the road. Right. And it's up for national governments, subnational governments, business, civil society, individuals, entrepreneurs, investors, people all over the place, operating in all different parts of the economy, to start mainstreaming climate change into just their logic of how these things should operate. It's something that we just never had to consider before. Yeah. We've never had to consider it before, and so it's really a paradigm shift.
It really is.
And so, Paris is signal that, well, hey guys, we're actually thinking about this now. It's at the front of our minds. Climate change considerations are at the forefront of thinking about all new investment opportunities, all new infrastructure, all new, kind of agency initiatives in governments.
Yeah, I think, and in Copenhagen, I wasn't at Copenhagen, but that was a very disappointing process for many to most people involved, especially activists. I feel like a lot of people a part of them died in Copenhagen, and I guess I'm just hoping that when the Paris Agreement is reached and announced, that the rest of the world and all the activists and civil society and all that can really just own it and say, okay, great, that's our starting point. Like, that's what we have, and we're gonna make it better or keep pushing it. I just feel like it won't be as ambitious as most people want.
Of course.
And I don't want it to reach it and then people get angry and then it's kind of disheartening. Like, I feel like it needs to be this kind of foundation, and then everyone else is going to build on top of it.
Yeah, it's like the scaffolding. It's
Yeah.
all we fill it in from there.
So there it was. I hope you enjoyed it. And I make these videos for you out there, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're getting some sort of value from this. And if not, reach out to me. Leave a comment. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. Let me know what topics you want to see more videos on, what I can do to improve. So thanks, and come back and check out some more stuff.